I opened my previous video with a thought experiment, saying how if you were to view a NASCAR race from 1993, 2003, and 2013, you'd notice that they are remarkably similar. But if you compare any of those races to 2023, the differences couldn't be more obvious. It's basically a different sport at that point. Now, I didn't get into it a ton in that video, but the reason why I mentioned that is because, as you might imagine, when you have a sport or a product that is largely the same for, I don't know, 50 some years at least, when you make massive changes to it and make it into something entirely different, the people who enjoyed the previous product oftentimes are going to have a hard time, accepting the new product, regardless of how good it is or not. And it is the job of NASCAR and its affiliates in the media to explain why the new stuff is good. But that only goes so far as to where you're not blatantly lying about the product or telling people how they should feel about it. It should never go beyond telling people what it is and how it works and what it aims to do. And from there, letting the fan decide on their own if it succeeds in that goal and if it's a worthy replacement for what came before. Because that is what it is. It is a replacement. It is a massive shift in the style of the product. And once you shift into trying to tell people how they should feel about it, well, then that shifts from just simply providing information to trying to shape the way that your fan base views the product. And that runs the risk of alienating and frustrating your fan base if what you're saying isn't matching what they're seeing with their own eyes. And that brings us to today's topic, NASCAR media. Now, when I say NASCAR media, I'm not simply talking about the members of NASCAR podcasts. I'm talking about everyone who engages with the media, whether it be Mamba Smith on Twitter, Jeff Burton on NASCAR America or whatever it is that they have running for NBC, whether it's Dale Jr. on his podcast, whether it's Steve O'Donnell or Steve Phelps speaking to the media, whether it's Michael Waltrip just off the cuff saying whatever that ends up on Denny Hamlin's podcast. All of that is included in when I say NASCAR media. So, let's go ahead and dive into this video. The title is going to be for this video something along the lines of "Don't Believe Your Lying Eyes," because that is basically what the media has been saying for a long time in regards to the product. They either ignore the issues or they lie about them. So let me give you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about here. So a clip resurfaced a couple weeks or maybe a month ago of Jeff Burton being asked back in, what was it, like 2007, about stage racing. It was proposed by, I think, Marty Reed at some sort of like meeting, and it was televised, or at least his suggestion was televised. And they asked Jeff Burton about it. And Jeff Burton's response is basically how my response is that it's utterly ridiculous. And it's funny, not only was his response about it wasn't even about cautions, I don't think. It was about points, too. He was saying it's utterly ridiculous to hand out large chunks of points in the middle sections of the race because it will cause people to not push as hard for a good result in the end of the race, and will instead try to run harder at the beginning and will therefore get worse finishes. And of course, for racing, we want to encourage drivers to focus on the finish of the race, getting the best finish they can. Now, what Jeff Burton said then is completely correct. But then, he comes on recently and has talked about the beauty of stage racing. And it's not just him. Many of these commentators who voiced negative opinions on stage racing before have come out in recent years and defended stage racing. And I mean, they'll just make offhand comments about like, oh, that's what makes this racing style so great. And they don't just do that about stage racing, mind you. They do that about the next gen car. I'm recording this, as you can probably tell by it's like the same race in the background as my previous video. I'm recording this right after the 2025 All-Star race. And many, many, many times I heard Clint Boyer trying to tell me, oh man, this is great racing. This is great racing. And every time he said that, it felt like I was about to chip a tooth because I don't want them to tell me what I should be thinking about the racing product. That drives me crazy when they do that. And it's happening more and more frequently. And it's not even just on the broadcast, it's everywhere. It's all the time, constant bombardment of NASCAR media members trying to tell me what I should think. And then, they will, if they can't gaslight you or light you, they will argue with you. You have people on Twitter like Mamba Smith or Dave Moody that argue just the dumbest points out there and are intentionally obtuse and misinterpret other people's arguments and argue in bad faith. I see it all the time, and it is so infuriating to see them do this because they know that they're arguing in bad faith, and I know they're arguing in bad faith. It's blatantly obvious to everyone what they're doing, and they still do it anyway. And I just don't get why they would bother with that. Because you're not going to make somebody who doesn't like the next gen if you just say, oh man, this racing's great. It's like, oh yeah, Clint, yeah, I wasn't sure if I should like this or not, but Clint Boyer telling me on the broadcast, that was the nail in the final coffin for me. Now I love this racing. It's been a great race. It's like, nobody says that. It's like, oh, Mamba Smith going on Twitter and it's like, oh, this championship format isn't gimmicky. I don't know what you guys are talking about. It's like, oh, yeah, no, guys, Mamba Smith is absolutely right here. I need to give up the goose right now. He's correct. I'm wrong. He knows more than me. You have, like, Jeff Burton saying, I don't know why anybody has a problem with the racing at Talladega. It's like, yes, you do. It would take a 20-second search through your Twitter timeline to see what people are saying about the racing product. It would take 5 minutes for you to look at a clip somebody posted online where, like, I saw one that was like, oh, count the amount of passes we had in the top 10 on the last 10 laps of the Talladega race. If he watched that, he could watch that clip and see exactly what people are talking about. But no, he's just talking nonsense. And he blowing his own credibility. And for what? What does he gain out of that? What does he do? Does he really feel like he's defending NASCAR? Anyway, I'm getting on a rant here. I'm getting pissed off. I'll move on to the next section of NASCAR media members, and that is the people in the sport, people in the industry. You have people like Kyle Larson and Ryan Blaney be like, oh, people are mad at this car because, people keep dominating in it. It's like, no, are you stupid or something? Like, come on. How out of touch do you have to be? And I can say this because I'm a Kyle Larson fan, okay? Kyle Larson needs to shut up and never make another comment about the NASCAR, the next gen, and its racing product ever again. I don't think it is possible for me to care less about his opinion on the product. It literally could not matter less to me. And same goes for Cliff Daniels. I don't want to hear Cliff Daniels come out and say, oh, well, I don't know what everybody else is saying. I thought this was guys, I went and watched this old Bristol race from decades ago. And today's race, I think, was actually a very traditional Bristol race. Like, okay, all right, that's fine. That's fine for you. But for me personally, I don't care. And I want better. I mean, I genuinely don't understand what they think they're gaining by this, because you're not, like, do they think their opinion matters? Like, does Jeff Burton genuinely think that him saying that he doesn't know why people are upset about the plate racing, does he really think that does anything to make NASCAR's situation better? Does he really think that? Like, I'm not asking for them to come out and just mercilessly rip through the NASCAR and just talk about how terrible it is. I'm just asking for them not to lie to me, not to try to tell me what to think. Because from where I sit, and whenever I hear them say that, I get a little embarrassed that these people are that I'm like they're on my feed. They're on my timeline. They're on my television. It's so sad watching them try to run cover like this. Um, and in my opinion, this is worse than when NASCAR just used to fine drivers for saying bad stuff about them. Because at the very least, we knew that it struck a nerve. You know, when Tony Stewart would say, you're going to get somebody killed because you can't figure out how to make a safe lug nut policy and force us to keep these lug nuts on the tires. You know, when NASCAR finds him, it's like, we know that Tony Stewart struck a nerve there. But nowadays, NASCAR doesn't find anybody. They just don't listen at all. We have no idea if they even hear what we're saying. And from our perspective, when they spout nonsense about the NASCAR championship format, it's great. You know, fans love it. It makes me really wonder about the competency of the people in charge and their legitimacy, because obviously the fan base does not feel the same way that they do, and they refuse to address it. And what's really concerning about that, and why I feel like it's a bigger issue than people realize, is that if the fan base feels at some point that there's nothing that we can do, there's nobody looking out for our interest, there's no one engaging in conversation, that nothing we say or do will move the needle with NASCAR, then at some point people are just going to start giving up. And that's the last thing NASCAR needs, because once people give up, they stop watching. You know, there's that argument of, not argument, it's just a dumb comeback of, oh, well, you know, if you don't like it, then why do you even watch? You know, you should tune out. Well, a lot of people have done that over the years, and that's why NASCAR is in a bad spot right now. You know, if everybody who didn't like it turned the TV off, then the viewership would probably fall another 30% at least. So that's a terrible argument to be making. You know, at the very least, you could try to and this is the thing, they don't even engage in good faith arguments with people. Like, a great example of this is the 2024 championship post race, the Teardown podcast with Jordan Bianchi and Jeff Gluck. And it was so frustrating to watch because Jeff Gluck would spend 15, 20 minutes just riffing off points against this format and talking about how terrible it is. And Jordan Bianchi, you could see, was sitting there just basically knowing he can't argue with Jeff Gluck's points until Jeff Gluck would slip up and say something that had the ability to be misinterpreted. Like, if I mean, Jordan Bianchi knew exactly what Jeff Gluck was saying, but he saw an opening to intentionally misinterpret what Gluck was saying to make it a point about something else. And he did this so often, I had to turn it off. I couldn't watch it anymore because it was driving me so crazy having to listen to that, because he knew what he was doing. It was very intentional from him. And it happens all the time now. It's very commonplace for media members to argue like that. And it's not even really arguing. They won't engage in good faith arguments. And that brings me to kind of the conclusion here. I know this was a lot shorter than the last one. How do we go about addressing this issue? What can we do? Well, what we really need to do as a fan base, it's actually more simple than you might think. What we need to do is stop engaging in arguments with these people. Stop wasting your time talking to Mamba Smith on Twitter. Just don't do it anymore. Don't engage with people who are obviously not in a good faith argument with you. Don't bother, because you're not going to convince them to stop basically lying to you. It's not going to happen. They're going to shill as much as they want to shill for one reason or another. So it does you no good to waste your time arguing with them. What we need to do is make it make it very clear how little their opinion matters to us. Like, we need to make it clear to Jeff Burton that he is one viewer of NASCAR. And if he likes what's going on right now, good for him. But I don't. And Jeff Burton's not going to get me to tune in if I don't like the product. So Jeff Burton better get on the train of figuring out how to fix NASCAR, or he's not going to have a job. So that's what's going to happen here. people are just going to have to go on social media and just completely ignore any of the arguments that we see from, from the usual suspects. It's going to have to be you think that this race was not that bad and that people are blowing it out of proportions? Okay, good for you. Now let's let the rest of us come up with real solutions over here. It's like that meme of the guy like yelling something from across the room and somebody just like out of the group like just gives them a thumbs up and they go back to talking again. That's what we basically need to do to all these people. Their opinion doesn't matter. It never has and it never will. They cannot force the fan base to think something else, no matter how many times they say it. Just because they repeat it a bunch doesn't make it true. And they're going to have to realize that. I mean, let's take a look at the 550 package. The reason why the 550 package isn't being used today is because there was such an outcry from fans that NASCAR basically had to change course. It wasn't that NASCAR admitted that they were wrong and said, hey, we can achieve our goals while doing what the fans want. No, the fans just made it clear to them that what they want didn't matter. The direction, the goals of NASCAR management don't matter. And we need to make that clear again. NASCAR's goals as an entity don't matter to anyone. They're not important. If their goals are not aligning with our goals as a fan base, then their goals might as well not exist because they don't matter and they have no impact on us. We gave them the benefit of the doubt for years and years and years. But for every time Denny Hamlin comes out and says, yeah, we can make engines, more powerful engines for the same price, and NASCAR doesn't have a response for that, well, then we stop giving them the benefit of the doubt. Because at that point, we're like, okay, well, now somebody who actually has to pay for your crap is telling us something different. So what is it? So anyway, I know I kind of got a bit ranty there at the end, but the point I'm trying to make is we as fans have a simpler job than we think we do. We really just need to incessantly complain and whine about the product. I mean, sure, I know I'm saying that while making in-depth videos. I'm saying don't bother engaging with these people in arguments. Don't bother trying to prove your point. Just argue with them. Just argue and be upset about it and make posts on social media about it. And maybe even if you want, just stop showing up to races and protest, whatever you want to do. That stuff is what we have to do. And I know it's funny because I'm making a big in-depth video as if to convince them that I'm right and they're wrong. But I'm making these more so to direct the fan base, to help people out with that, rather than to actually change the minds of NASCAR, because I know they can watch all of my videos and it wouldn't make a difference in their mindset. So, point is that we as fans really just need to constantly talk about what we want from NASCAR and not let up until we get it. We need to be very forceful about our points. We need to make it clear that we're not going to, we will stop watching if things don't go our way. Actually, no, we should make it clear, even if we don't stop watching, we're still going to keep complaining about it until things get back to what we want. And I understand this is going to piss some people off. People are going to get mad at all the whiners and the complainers and the haters. And you'll have people on social media like, oh man, do you ever shut up? And things like that. Which the answer to that is no, I don't. But we're going to have to just talk like that the whole time. We're just going to have to sit there and be like, oh, if you think this race was good, good for you, but I didn't. And so I'm going to vote no on the Gluck poll. And I'm going to say how terrible this race was. And I'm going to complain about it. And I'm going to post clips of races from 15 years ago and see how much better they are. And just do that all the time. And if people get frustrated about it, then maybe, at some point NASCAR will get so frustrated and fed up with us that they'll finally give us what we want. And that's what I'm going to do. I mean, I'm not going to just stop at these videos. I'm going to start making posts on social media. I'm going to start actually doing stuff to try to move the needle here. I've already stopped attending races at, cup races at tracks around me. I've stopped doing that. I used to go to both Charlotte races every year, usually at least one Martinsville race, and then an occasional Darlington race. And now I don't go to any of those anymore. I go to the Xfinity races. Just this year I went to the Xfinity race at Rockingham. And I would be going to the Xfinity race at Charlotte, but I have other obligations that day. But so I'm happy to go to Xfinity races, but I'm not going to go to any cup races. So you can protest in your own way, but we as fans just have to make it clear what kind of product we're looking for from NASCAR, and that we will not rest until we get that. It is going to be constant bombardment from us until we get that. And that no matter what Steve Phelps or Steve O'Donnell or Kyle Larson or Cliff Daniels or Joey Logano or Mamba Smith or even Dale Earnhardt Jr. or Dave Moody or Jeff Burton think, whatever they think, it doesn't matter. That what they say and do has no impact on us as a fan base. It never will. And we're going to keep fighting to get the kind of NASCAR racing that we want. And the reason we're not going to stop fighting is because we love NASCAR. If I didn't love NASCAR, I would have given up this fight a long time ago and stopped wasting my time with it. But I love NASCAR, and I probably always will, no matter how much they piss me off. So it's because I love the sport that I want it to be better, because I remember when it was. I have object permanence, unlike many people in the NASCAR media landscape, and even some in the fan base. I remember an era when NASCAR was better. I remember things. My memory of 2011 doesn't just go away because they tell me that the racing we have now is the best we've ever seen. It doesn't go away. And it never will. I will always remember those old races. And this is a point that somebody on Twitter usually says. He says it quite a lot. For everyone to always remember that we can get back very quickly to the 2011 NASCAR format. We can get back to that. I use 2011 because that's a year that a lot of people like, myself included. That's probably my favorite year of NASCAR ever, at least that I've watched. So we can get back to that style of racing. It's not impossible, and to be honest, it's not even that hard. So, there is a reason to fight. What we're asking for is not unreasonable, and we should be able to expect better from NASCAR leadership, and that they really need to start listening to they really need to start listening to the fan base. And something I actually forgot to mention in my previous video, I'll mention it now. Something in my background that I wanted to say is that I would consider myself in NASCAR's target demographic. At least I think I am. I am a younger person who has the ability and the desire to go to these races. I love racing in general. I have disposable income to spend on races and merchandise. So you'd think that they would want to keep my viewership. But right now, they say that they're chasing the casual fan. I don't even think that's it. The casual fan is them. The casual fan are the people in charge of the sport. And we need to make it clear to them that their opinions don't matter. The media's opinions don't matter. The drivers, the crew chiefs, team owners, their opinions don't matter. The OEMs don't matter. What matters is what the fans want. And until we get what we want, we're not going to stop talking about it. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. This one was probably a little less directed than the last one. I was a little bit more free-flowing there, as you would. I was just kind of talking off the cuff about whatever came to mind in that discussion. But I hope you guys got something useful out of it. I hope it was enjoyable to you. Hope it made some good points. Once again, please leave your thoughts in the comments below if you have any you'd like to share. And, of course, if you got any topics you'd like me to discuss in a future video, make sure to leave them down there, and I'll get to those eventually. But without further ado, this is the end of this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.